Okay, so we're discussing the difference between a mortar board and a mortar pan. Okay, and one of the things that we're going to see evident right off the bat is that the mortar pan is capable of holding a lot more material. And while Bob is able to use the mortar board, it could be much messier. A lot of the material and the water and everything will fall off. Whereas with the mortar pan, the material is much more confined. You can also keep the material from the masonry product from falling into the pan better. Okay. In addition to that, it becomes easier as there's less material for Bob to get the mortar out of the mortar pan. He could use it as a press against the metal so that he can get the mortar out easier. Okay. He's going to keep the material off the board. He's going to keep the material off his clothes. If he has to, in this case, if you had ties or something, weep holes, you wouldn't be able to store them as well here as you would in this space down here below the pan. Okay. And again, I want to emphasize that while there isn't that much mortar in this pan, you could actually put it much higher, and a lot more mortar could go on that pan than would go on that board. And finally, when it comes to managing the cement, using a hoe and keeping water in the pan, it's much more confined, it's much neater, and it's also, when it's a hot day, it stays a lot wetter, and the masons can put a little water around the outside and temper it themselves, whereas in this, all those options are none of the above. If you were to temper this, probably some of it would be falling off the board. Any water that you put would just simply run off the side of the board and be lost. Okay. Is there anything that you want to add, Bob? Did I miss any of the finer points?
I'm pretty good with that. You hit all the bases. Here's the problem: if on each side the mortar board does have a little lip to keep some of the material in, but as you can see, if you have to come in and mix, all of a sudden, boom, it's falling on the ground, falling on the scaffold. It's getting the material on each side of the mortar board dirty, whereas the pan, as the sides come up, everything stays in nice and neat, and it's good to go.
I want to add that we're working on a surface with a simple setup here. But if we were talking about working on a scaffold where the pan is way above and the mason is getting fed from the ground, say out of a mortar box, as they throw that shovel up and it goes into this mortar pan, it's much more likely to stay and not splatter than it would if it were on this pan and it was above his head. So again, from the standpoint of feeding the scaffold, it's easier in the air when you have a mortar pan than it would be with a mortar box.
And the mortar pan and the mortar board, they're both the same size. They're 30 inches by 30 inches. And the only good thing is that the mortar pan is 7 inches deep, so you can put a lot more material in that as opposed to a mortar board that you can't fill up to the top like a mortar pan.
Okay. Finally, the last thing is if you had more than one kind of mortar, you could literally take the other pan and put it on top of this one. In a mortar board, you probably wouldn't be able to do that. You could switch it in and out. All right. Thanks for watching the video.